Sleepers 2.0. Let's talk undervalued players up next on Fantasy Baseball Today Express. Welcome into FBT Express on Wednesday, March 5th. I am Frank Stampfl, joined by Chris Towers. Let's talk Sleepers 2.0. We'll just rattle off some picks here back and forth. Chris, you are up. A new addition to Sleepers 2.0.
Yeah, and just to, set some ground rules, I still love Ivan Herrera and Brandon Lowe and Carlos Correa and a bunch of the guys from Sleepers 1.0, so let's not forget about those guys. But I really think Jackson Jobe is one of the most overlooked players in fantasy right now. His ADP remains, I believe, outside of the top 250 in the last 2 weeks over at the NFBC, and I just don't really get why there doesn't seem to be much excitement about Jackson Jobe. We're talking about Roki Sasaki aside, the best pitching prospect in baseball, who is already made it to the major leagues, seems to have a spot in the Tigers rotation locked up, and nobody can work up the excitement for this guy. This is the type of profile we're typically tripping over ourselves to draft in fantasy. And look, there are things in Jobe's profile that are less than ideal. His strikeout rate, only 26% in the minors last year. That's decent, but it's not great. Walk rate, 12%. That was pretty bad. So, that I get it. Even though he had a 2.36 ERA over 91 innings, I understand why people have some skepticism. But when you talk about that late in the draft, I don't care what it looks like if it goes wrong. Because if it goes wrong, you're probably just dropping the 257th pick. If it goes right, and Jackson Jobe's what every prospect evaluator thinks he can be, we're talking about a legitimate difference maker for 130 or 140 innings. I will take that bet every time.
The ADP the past 2 weeks for Jackson Jobe, 257. Worth noting in CBS head-to-head points leagues, he is RP eligible, and he goes a lot higher than...
Should be a top 180 pick in those leagues.
Yep. A sleeper for me is going to be Gavin Williams, who is coming off a weird year last year. He suffered the right elbow inflammation in spring. He did not return until the end of June, so he missed a large portion of the season and then just didn't look right once he returned. He wasn't very good. 4.86 ERA, a 1.37 whip. He threw his slider a lot less, so you wonder if maybe that elbow was still giving him some trouble, but this is a former top prospect, still just 25 years old. He had 2 starts with double-digit strikeouts as a rookie way back in 2023. And down the stretch of that season, he looked to be building towards a breakout 2024 before he unfortunately suffered that injury. Small sample size in spring so far, but he's looked really good. On Tuesday, he had 15 swinging strikes. 13 of those came on his fastball. Apparently, he has a revamped slider that he's throwing with less velocity this season. So Gavin Williams, definitely a name that should be on your radar. The ADP over the past couple of weeks is in the 240-ish range. There's a lot of interesting pitchers in that range of the draft. So I think you really just want to load up your bench with a lot of upside options like Gavin Williams towards the end of your draft. Chris, back over to you for another sleeper.
Last year, drafting guys named Jackson worked out pretty well. Jackson Merrill, Jackson Churio. I'm going to double down again and go with Jackson Holiday, who was the guy named Jackson who didn't work out last year, but I still think has plenty of upside. The thing you have to keep in mind about Jackson Holiday is, okay, yes, he was bad last year. Yes, there were troubling signs even in his very good minor league data. He was 20. He doesn't turn 22 until after this season. He is still a baby. Most guys, when they are Jackson Holiday's age, haven't even been drafted yet. And he's already someone that we're like, I don't know about this kid. So that's the thing you have to keep in mind. He still had a 908 OPS at AAA. He still walked almost as much as he struck out. He showed actually surprising pop, I think, across both AAA and the majors. Hit the ball pretty hard. The strikeout rate was obviously untenable, but it sounds like he's pretty much written into the lineup at second base as long as he doesn't blow it this spring. Manager Brandon Hyde's talking a lot about how he wants his team to run more, and that includes Jackson Holiday. So I think Jackson Holiday has still superstar potential. It looks less certain now than it did a year ago, but bet on the young blue chip talent who's still getting an opportunity is my thought process.
I agree completely. Jackson Holiday was in my breakouts 1.0. And
all right, well, you don't have to, show me up.
I'm hyping you up. I'm agreeing with you, Chris. ADP the last 2 weeks for Jackson Holiday, 205. So
it hasn't moved up that much.
Yeah, has not moved up yet. Hopefully it doesn't. Let's take a quick break. We'll be back right after this.
Who's in? Who's out? Let the madness begin. The NCAA Men's Basketball Championship Selection Show on CBS and streaming on Paramount+.
Welcome back in FBT Express, and we're going over Sleepers 2.0. Next name for me is an oldie, but a goodie. Jorge Soler, who is still a solid power source going late in drafts. Got off to a slow start last year, but from June on hit 263 with 15 home runs and 855 OPS. A lot of that came actually in Atlanta as well, where he did get his season back on track. Still shows a good eye at the plate, 12% walk rate last season. Quality of contact is still good. Average exit velocity over 90 miles per hour, a 12% barrel rate. And I really like the move over to the Angels. Last year, 16 of 21 home runs came on the road, and it is a huge park shift going from San Francisco Oracle Park over to Angel Stadium. 28th was San Francisco in home run park factor. Angels Stadium was 5th. So a positive park shift, and it's just hard to find power later on in drafts. So for someone who's going outside the top 200 picks in the past 2 weeks, I do like Jorge Soler to come close to a 30 home run season once again in 2025. Chris, back over to you for one more sleeper.
Yeah, we'll go with Jesus Luzardo, who before he got traded to the Phillies, his ADP was like outside the top 350. People had just completely given up on him. But even with the move to the Phillies, he hasn't moved up that much. 248.6 ADP over the past 2 weeks at the NFBC. Look, there's no guarantee Jesus Luzardo will be good. There's no guarantee that he'll be healthy. I think it's reasonable to have concerns about both of those things. However, the first thing we needed to see from Jesus Luzardo this season was the velocity being back up. And that's what we saw in his first spring start last Friday. Average 95.8 miles per hour with the sinker, 96.7 with the four-seamer. And that's about a mile to a mile and a half per hour up from last year. And that may not sound like much, but it tends to be a really big deal for Jesus Luzardo. When he's sitting 95, he tends to get hit pretty hard. He doesn't get good extension on the fastball. The physical characteristics of the pitch are not great, but if he's throwing 96, 97 from the left side, it doesn't matter all that much. That's where he is right now. So that was the first thing we needed to see. Now just get through spring training healthy. He's got a much better team backing him up. I think we could see another situation where Jesus Luzardo is a must-start pitcher in fantasy.
All right, another oldie, but I think still a goodie. Max Scherzer, 40 years old. Does he have anything left? I think so. It's just a matter of how many starts will his body hold up for this season? Last year, a 3.95 ERA, a 1.15 WHIP, only made the 9 starts, but still posted a 14.6% swinging strike rate. That was the same swinging strike rate as Tarek Skubal. So it is an elite mark that Max Scherzer posted. A very small sample size this spring, but he's still getting whiffs. He has 8 strikeouts, 0 walks over 5 2/3 innings. He didn't mix in 5 sinkers in his latest outing, a pitch he has not thrown since back in 2017. So mixing things up, velocity is still okay, getting whiffs, and the ADP for Max Scherzer past 2 weeks is right around 300. So going very late, behind names like Mitch Keller, Michael Wacha, Ranger Suarez. Those guys are high floor pitchers, but I think Scherzer's upside is still much higher on a per inning basis. It's just, can he stay healthy is the biggest question mark for Max Scherzer. For more extensive fantasy baseball coverage, listen to our full-length podcast, Fantasy Baseball Today, on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, or anywhere else podcasts are found. Thanks for listening to Fantasy Baseball Today Express, and we will be back again tomorrow. Bye-bye.